All right, it is YouTube week here on the Rubin Report, and I am with that guy T, also known as T, also known as Talid, also known as anything else?
I think that's about it.
That's about it. You are a atheist libertarian YouTuber. You got one or two more adjectives? I watched your channel trailer. You had a few more adjectives for yourself.
Yeah, atheist, libertarian, YouTuber, anarcho-capitalist, asshole sometimes. It depends, now probably cis-het, not white male, but cis-het and male shitlord nonetheless.
Yeah. Now, according to my notes here, you are black. Is that correct?
I think so.
Think so. Okay. Just want to get, I'm just looking at the notes here. All right. People love labels.
But I am.
Yeah. Well, because I know people love labels and I don't want to hide anything from the audience before you give your views, because you obviously represent everyone, right?
Exactly. I speak for the entire black community. Me and Black Lives Matter in negotiations right now. They're trying to get me a top on D-Ray, but, soon enough.
Yeah. All right. So I'm psyched to have you on because your videos are just great. You're clear, to the point, funny. I love what you're doing. So let's just knock out the atheist stuff first, because I don't think that's really your focus. But you talk about it a bit. When did you kind of come around to realizing that you were an atheist?
Probably I'd say around when I was 17. Prior to that, throughout my entire life, I've never really been religious. So I never really had that religious awakening where I was like, oh, all of this is bullshit. I always kind of figured, like the Adam and Eve story, come on.
Yeah.
And once I figured out what incest was, I was like, so am I missing some chromosomes? So yeah, I never was really fully religious. Going forward, I became a deist for a short time, and I'm probably going to do a video on that pretty soon, just explaining why I felt the need that I had to believe in some God and why I felt that was somehow better than just believing in any God. Mm-hmm. And from there, I just figured, you know what, I don't really know any God that I do believe in. If there is one, awesome, maybe he could help me out. But if it's not, whatever, I don't have any evidence for it being one, or for there really not being one either. I don't have any evidence for its existence whatsoever. So I figured, hey, I'm an atheist.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I say. Show me some evidence and we can have that conversation. Yet nobody seems to have any.
I don't know. B.O.B. has some pretty big stats on the Earth being flat, so it's just something out there.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, so I think that's enough on atheism. We got the point. You like evidence, and evidence, I think, is partly what led you to libertarianism, and I think this is really your kind of core thing. You're a libertarian through and through. Fair to say?
Yeah, that's pretty fair to say. Okay,
so for the people that have no idea, even though I've been trying to talk about classic liberalism here and libertarianism, what is a libertarian?
Okay, so this is the moment that I've been waiting for.
Get going.
I'm not going to get on into the BS physically conservative, socially liberal, mass consumption version of libertarianism. I think your audience, and this is a compliment, I think they're smart enough to really know what libertarianism is. So really quick, I just wanted to pull it up because there was a picture on Instagram that had a definition of it, and I couldn't memorize it, but it was just so perfectly summarized.
I like this. You did homework. I did not tell you any of the questions in advance. This is very impressive.
Listen, man, I'm representing libertarianism on your show. I have to be it's a pretty big deal.
All right.
So libertarianism is basically centered around, maybe people may not like this, but centered around the principles of non-aggression and property rights. And this is a definition that I saw on Instagram that just summarized it perfectly. Basically, it's the idea that every individual has the right to life, liberty, and justly acquired property, and the freedom to pursue their own self-interest free of coercion, so long as in doing so they don't inflict with others individual rights. I think that's pretty straightforward.
So doesn't that sound pretty damn good to you? Because that sounds pretty damn good to me.
It does, I don't know anyone who doesn't want to pursue their own self-interest. I don't know anyone who thinks, I want to do this thing, but I really wish there was some other buzzkill out there who would force the government to stop me from doing what I want to do. And of course, there are some crazy people who may want to go out and shoot up high schools or, dump nuclear waste into, rivers and whatnot. But we have precautions for those type of things. Those type of things do infringe on others' individual rights. So we're not going going to go that far in allowing freedom, but pretty much everything else, as long as you're not actually hurting anyone or preventing anyone else from doing what they want to do, it's open season. You should be able to do what you want.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that, but is that the inherent catch-22 of libertarianism, and why when you watch the Libertarian, I think me and you were probably the only two people on earth that watched the Libertarian debate on Fox Business, or actually, wait, did you not watch it? I tweeted at you during it, and I think maybe you said you didn't watch it?
I didn't watch the first one. The second one I watched, I think like the last 30 minutes of it. I missed the first one. I caught up on it afterwards, the post show, but not live.
Yeah. So point it being, very few people watch it. Even at the Libertarian convention, I suppose the catch-22 with libertarians is you're saying do what you want. And when you say that to people, you have these real anarchists who want no government, no regulation, no driver's licenses, no control whatsoever, versus I think what you describe more as, the easy way to understand it, which is the fiscally conservative, socially liberal stuff. I kind of fit into that more easily understandable category. But is it hard to unify people? Is that the libertarians' problem? It's hard to unify people under the guise of do what's right for you.
Yeah, it's really hard to unify libertarians, and I've seen the analogy used before that organizing libertarians is like herding cats. So it's such an individualist philosophy that you can't really collectivize it, especially in like a political party. But even in terms of just like just like a cohesive group. A lot of libertarians, range from anarcho-capitalists, which I identify as, big L.
Can you lay out what that is for people that don't know?
Anarcho-capitalist is pretty much someone who believes in the non-aggression principle, someone who believes that pretty much what I explained, but to the fullest degree. So, that means we don't want any coercion of things like court systems. We don't want any coercion involved with things like, building infrastructure or providing charity or welfare. We believe, I'm going to say this, it's going to raise your comments.
Bring it.
Taxation is theft. It is. And, a lot of other things, basically a completely voluntary approach to libertarianism. Big L libertarianism is kind of like, we believe in really limited government, but we still need government for things like defense, roads, and all that. And anarcho-capitalists believe that should be privatized. And then you have agorists and, voluntarists and, the new consensualism and classical liberals, I would consider a branch of libertarianism, maybe more so to the left, but still there, market anarchists. And it goes really, really far, all these different ideological labels. But pretty much, and I say this too, as long as you're willing to respect the core foundation of libertarianism, we can argue about the details going forward. We can argue about how far we want to go. But let's just get some simple things done. Like, let's end the drug war. Can we all agree that that's a bad thing? Let's try to legalize, markets that are criminalized right now, like prostitution. Can we all agree that women have the right to sell their own body as they see fit? And when you go further down, we get, we want to completely abolish of taxes. I think the IRS could probably go away. Yeah. But we can talk about that later. Right now, let's just at least agree that freedom should be something that we should all be pursuing to achieve or enhance, and we should try to drift more so away, I was about to say slowly, but really more quickly away from authoritarianism.
Yeah, so I'm fully on board that, and I've been pushing this idea over the individual instead of the collective. You did a great video on that, by the way, talking about the individual and why you should care about the individual. As Ayaan Hirsi Ali says, the ultimate minority is the individual, so we have to be aware of the individual. What do you think libertarians can do? Because I don't hear, you're 22, is that right?
Yes, correct.
You don't hear of many 22-year-old libertarians. Like, it seems old school to say you're a libertarian. That seems old. Even though I do think it's starting to bubble up now because our political system is so screwed. But it seems like it's not cool to be a libertarian. It's cool to be a socialist somehow.
Yeah, and even then, it's not even really cool to be a socialist that much anymore. I mean, aside from people who just really don't understand economics and just actually believe that socialism will work, socialism is dying off. We've had, the left, Democrats promote a lot of left-leaning socialist policies. We're seeing socialism fail in other countries in real time, such as Venezuela, and then Marxism and communism, there's still the trendy anarchists who are, saying we're going to seize the means of production and kill the capitalist class. Bring it on, for those. But yeah, I don't think socialism is still that cool, but I think it still appeals to a lot of people, especially in times where you have, like the student loan debt bubble, you have increased, just basically a lot of economic problems, a lot of economic hardships, income inequality, which I don't really think is necessarily a bad thing, but you have a lot of crony capitalism involved with it, and you have a lot of people feeling disparaged, and they're like, hey, I feel like I'm not doing good. I feel like I'm not getting ahead, and you have these politicians who come in and say, hey, I can give you free stuff from the government, and that's really appealing to young people. But I think I'm seeing a lot of people also shift towards, there's a lot of young people shifting towards libertarianism. A lot of people are adopting principles of freedom, and also even I'm not giving them a shout out here, but the alt-right is gaining a lot of traction too, with Trump and people going away from neo-establishment conservatism and going towards more libertarian, well, not libertarian, but like classical constitutionalist, Tea Party type conservatism, and I think that's somewhat beneficial. I mean, getting away from the authoritarian nature of the left, which left, it's usually been that the left is economically authoritarian and the right is socially authoritarian. The alt-right is less socially authoritarian, I would say, but it's also much less economically authoritarian. I think as long as you're the left, it may become more more socially libertarian here and there, but it never really becomes more economically libertarian. It's always economically authoritarian. They always want to control your wallets. They always want to controlling markets. They always want to control, basically anything, any consensual transaction that involves money, that involves profit. And I think that's a really bad thing, not only for the individual, but for society as a whole. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that and shift away from it.
Yeah, so it sounded in there somehow that you almost were given some props to alt-right. I don't think you were fully backing the alt-right. But I think a lot of people, when they would hear you say that, well, first off, how would you define the alt-right? For people that aren't in the bubble of this online world that we're in, what would you say is the alt-right?
The alt-right I've always defined as 60% disgruntled conservatives, disgruntled Republicans, maybe 30% this trolls and 4chan users, and 10% neo-Nazis. So I would say that probably sums up the alt-right pretty good.
Right, so that's where I was going to go with that, because it seems funny. I'm sure a certain amount of people watching this, people that like you, are going to go, wait a minute, he just kind of gave a tip of the hat to the alt-right, but the alt-right is also thought of, there is a definite true xenophobic element to that that's probably not big on black people and not big on Jews and atheists and some other people as well. But I guess every movement has their bad apples.
Exactly. I mean, anytime I personally go in alt-right circles, you'll always see the occasional dindu. You'll always see the occasional, sand in profanity word. I'll say it later, but not right now. And you always see these, bigoted. Some of them are edgelords. Some of them are actually just hateful people. But even in their hateful rhetoric, they're not really actively advocating for government to enact harm or violence against me. They're not actually advocating to control my life or to exile me or to, basically have any sort of authoritarian influence over me. They're just being very critical of, would that be, other races' IQ levels or things like that. But yeah, you can be as critical as you want. I'm not easily triggered. I can have a conversation about anything. So it really doesn't bother me.
I'm going to figure out a way to trigger you during this. If there's a way. But that, I mean, look, I'm the same way on that. It's like, people always say, well, how do you deal with all of them? And they're saying all this shit. And it's like, ooh, they're so scary behind their computers sending memes. It's like, all right. You said some shit. What do you want me to do?
Exactly. I'll say it now. Nigga. No, it doesn't hurt. I don't care. It's just words. It's just conversations. I think people are really, really easily offended now. And that's something I've always despised, not even in terms of just political correctness. In terms of everyday life, people get easily offended by the most banal things where you can just really brush it off. And, if you really want to display strength, if you really want to display, that you're above these people, then do so by, combating their ideas, like you always suggest. Do so by like standing your ground. Saying you believe this, I believe this. I'm going to continue to hold my beliefs. I'm not going to run away to a safe space. I'm not going to try to prevent you from speaking on my campus or anything like that. I'm not going to try to get you fired because I disagree with you. We just disagree, and I think it's pretty okay to just leave it at that.
So all this victim culture stuff, which you're hitting on, which I get it too. It's like people want to be professional victims all the time. And if you say something to them, then they're oppressed and then they can oppress someone else because they've been oppressed. It's actually completely the reverse of the type of libertarianism you're for, right? Because if you're for the individual, you're basically saying your life is your responsibility. So there's actual interesting sort of economic component to this victim culture stuff. You're saying go get yours. I have no need to be a victim, right?
Exactly. I don't see any value in it, and I don't. If someone wants to be a victim, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you from being a victim, but I'm not going to actively, condone. I'm not going to actively subsidize your victimhood. I'm not going to, pay you money or give you legitimacy just because you feel like you're oppressed or you feel like society owes you something. You're not really owed anything. Whether that be, this is something I get on Milo about. He always, when he comes on, he says the only people who are truly owed something in America are black people. They're the only ones who are truly owed something from the government. They're really not. I mean, the government, when the government does something bad, granted, it sucks. I don't legitimize really anything the government does, but especially when they, discriminate or actively, contribute to the, hardships of a particular people, especially on things such as disgusting as racial grounds or cultural or ethnic grounds or religious grounds. That's definitely something that should be condemned. But I always ask people, they say, government should help fix, this problem they fucked up. I'm like, usually the problem that they fucked up originally came from them trying to fix something else. So it's a continuous cycle of government trying to fix its screw ups, and then it screws up again. And eventually you just got to say, you know what, I'm good. I'll take care of it. I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
And especially in regards to discussion, like you said, is people have their own destiny. I believe people, can do what they want with their own life. So I always say, I like when people agree to disagree. We're all individuals. We all have our different pursuits. We all have our different ideas of how we think the world should work, of how we think what would contribute better to society, what would yield better results for, the future of humanity. And that's awesome. That's why we have the market, feel free to pursue what you want, and we'll see the best ideas rise to the top.
Yeah.
But, I always ask people, can we agree, disagree? And they always say, sure, I don't have a problem. Let's agree, disagree. That's fine, cool. But then, coming down the line, they always advocate for this law or this bill. They support this politician who's going to actually infringe on that conversation that we just had, and saying, so it's not really saying I agree, disagree. It's really saying, I disagree, and you're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it. Otherwise, you're going to go to jail for disagreeing with my personal opinion because I'm going to get enshrined by law.
Right.
That's completely, I forgot the word. But
it's counter to everything else that you're saying, basically.
Exactly. It's contrary, antithetical to libertarianism and all the principles of freedom and individualism. People always preach individualism. If you're constantly asking government to, pass some legislation to control other people, you don't give two shits about individualism. I'm sorry, but I'll call you out on that for being a hypocrite. If you're constantly proposing that government be the solution to humanity's problems or society's ills, you don't care about individualism. You care about collectivism, and you believe that your ideas are what the collective would be better off at. That may be true, it may be not. But once you begin to force that, once I don't have a choice anymore, I know it's not.
How much of this do you think is just about the way people view human nature? Because I think that a lot of people hear things that you're saying and of individual and all that stuff, and they view that as selfish. It's thought of as selfish. Now, I would view it as you doing what's good for you is the best thing you could do, because by doing good for yourself, most likely you'll do good for your family and friends. You'll do good for your wider community, things like that. So that fully makes sense to me versus them saying, well, oh, you're doing doing good for you, you're going to be selfish. You're going to, pollute the water or whatever. Except if you think about it in the macro sense, you're not going to pollute water that you have to drink. So it's just sort of how we view human nature more than anything else, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's this, kind of scary vibe towards, selfishness and greed. That we have greed, is going to be a bane on society. People aren't going to care about each other. They're just going to look to screw each other over. The thing is, the most benefit that society has ever gained from what I believe is the best economic system in the world or in humanity's history, capitalism, the most benefits and most useful application that we received from this system have come about from greed. It's come about from people pursuing their own self-interest, doing what they want to do so that they get the result that they want to see. And I don't think that's a bad thing. The baker, who bakes cakes, he's doing what he wants to do. He wants to see, I guess more like if it's a wedding bakery, more weddings, and he wants to contribute that. So he wants to, pursue that, and he wants to contribute to getting paid, or maybe he just wants to increase the incentivized marriage. That's fine. That may be beneficial to society, and we appreciate his service, because obviously if he's employed and people are buying his product, then we appreciate it. Same thing with things like charity. People don't give to charity just because they're selfless. Just no one in the world is selfless.
Yeah.
People give to charity because they want to feel good. They have a self-interest in helping others, and I think that's beautiful. That's a great thing. And if you have a self-interest in helping others, then go ahead and pursue that, help others.
Yeah.
But in the same sense.
Yeah, well, that's why I mean this idea of human nature, because it seems to me that people that believe in the collective, they say, well, we need the state to give people a certain amount of something, because left to their own devices, people wouldn't help the needy. But I don't know if that's actually true, because plenty of people, we have those systems in place now, and plenty of people still do help. So I wonder sometimes if you pulled back a little bit of that help that we're giving people, which we know often traps people too, if we pull that back, if people on their own, because of their own human nature, which you're saying it's selfish in its own way, but that they might give more actually if we didn't have the artificial piece that the government gives. Do you think that's fair to say?
I think it's very fair to say, and it may be arguable that they may give more, we may get less because we're not be able to steal it or print it up or just drop dead on people unconsensually that they have to pay for. Right now America is like 19 trillion in debt, so we wouldn't have that option. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right.
But yeah, I think people would voluntarily contribute, and the thing is, people always envision, charity or, bettering humanity from a selfless standpoint, from, we're just going to give people money. We're just going to give welfare. We're going to give them housing. We're just going to give it to them. And that's a great thing. That's helped sometimes, but it's really not the best thing that helps people. The best thing that helps people, humanity in general, is wealth accumulation. And if you think about it, how am I helping a poor person, making minimum wage at McDonald's? By buying a sandwich at McDonald's, because that gives them steady employment. That gives them money to go home and feed their family. And that gives McDonald's money to expand their business, and hopefully employ more people. I know Trump and a lot of alt-righters are scared of, our jobs going overseas. But as long as, if we're contributing and accumulating wealth and, expanding, I don't see a problem. I think it's really good that we're expanding, countries are expanding overseas, employing people in other third world nations who never had the opportunities that Americans, take for granted every day. People who, say, yeah, this foreign aid is nice, this little welfare here and there is good. But really what they really want is just economic stability. They really want wealth. And the only way to really give someone wealth is to contribute to the market, to engage in market activities, to engage in consensual transactions for mutually consensually exchanged benefit. And I think it's a lot that's missed in a lot of people. They just don't really see the value that they're adding every time they go out and buy a TV, or every time they go out and buy buy a new cell phone or anything like that, or new clothes. They always see that as a bad thing, like, oh, I'm selfish, I'm not helping humanity, I'm just doing for myself and doing what I want to do. When in reality, you're helping humanity a hell of a lot more than the government is with your taxes for welfare.
Right. Somebody built that phone, somebody put it in a box, somebody put a sticker on it, somebody sold it to you at Best Buy.
And somebody now gets to go home and feed their family, you know, where otherwise they wouldn't have been. They would have had to depend on the government for, you know, foreign aid that may get misplaced, and which we see a lot, where it gets sent to, you know, arms and, you know, military expansions, and, you know, sometimes it just gets corrupted and it gets held up in bureaucracy where the politicians extort it all. Whereas really, if they just had a job, that's a lot better than just hoping that they get a little shred of what this massive amount of money that government is just, you know, wasting constantly.
Yeah, so let's back up, because you mentioned the baker. So we have to talk about the baker and the gay cake, and everybody freaked out about it because, you know, look, I am a liberal. I say this constantly, and I really fall in what is a classical liberal sense, that I try to analyze each thing on its own merit and go from there. And I try to look out for the other when I can, and I use logic and reason. Okay, now, this was a case where I realized I'm a little more libertarian, because now, having seen the way it unfolded in the media and everything with this, was he in Indiana? I think he was in Indiana. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so.
I think Indiana. But basically, this couple didn't want to bake cakes for gay weddings. The media went bonkers, and everyone said, you know, the government should force them to do it, and blah, blah, blah. I would say, in this case, I'm a pure libertarian. I would not force a private company to do anything they want. If anything, don't bring your business there. And eventually, some other baker a block away is going to start baking gay cakes, and then people will go there and let the market adjust itself. I think you would agree with that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, this is something that many people may not agree with, but I've made a video on it before, and I still stand by it. Anti-discrimination laws are stupid. Not only are they ineffective, they're more so a cloak for bigotry rather than a solution to exterminate it. And, you know, I think that
can you explain what you mean by that? Because I think that's a really clever phrase.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, for example, if a wedding baker, conservative Christian baker or Catholic baker decided, hey, I don't want to bake gay wedding cakes, you know, and you as a person say, that's not cool. I don't want that in my society. The proper thing to do, the proper channel to take, is to acknowledge their beliefs, respect their beliefs, and remove them from the market with your dollars. Don't support their businesses, protest them, advocate that other businesses don't condone this type of behavior, and try to get that ideology out of the market. And if you think about it, when people start to realize that their pockets are hurting, they really have a really quick, mental, you know,
they come to Jesus, so to speak.
Exactly. Like, is this belief really worth having? Like, you know, I love you, Jesus. You know, I know you don't like gays, but, you know, damn, I'm losing out on a lot of money. You know, is this really something? Right. I mean, Christians pick and choose shit out of the Bible all the time, you know, what they want to acknowledge and what they don't. So I think if people have an incentive to, you know, disregard something, I think that's that they'll really reconsider it and maybe come to the conclusion that, you know what, maybe they have a point. I mean, all these people are, you know, coming at me. All the people are saying, you know, what I'm believing is wrong. Maybe I should reevaluate my position. But when you do it, you know, at the hand of a government force, when you just say, hey, it's not allowed. You know, you can't have the idea. It's illegal. You know, if you do it, you're going to go to jail. You're going to get your business shut down, whatever. That not only is it disrespectful and, you know, invalidates property rights, which is completely antithetical libertarianism, and also to the individual, it's invalidating their individual rights to hold their beliefs and practice their, you know, privately held business as they see fit. It also just gives them a cover to say, you know what, I'm not going to, you know, adopt these beliefs. I'm not going to, you know, engage in the marketplace of ideas. I'm just going to do this because I have to. But underneath, I really, really still don't like gays. And now that I'm forced to...
Right, now you really don't like them.
Exactly. I really don't like them. I really hate their ass, you know? So, you know, this leads to more, you know, more division, more hostility among groups, and it's not just gays among African Americans and among African Americans and whites, among men and women. When people were saying we had to have women mandated or to get in the draft, or we had to have this certain amount of female politicians in office. People are starting to think like, damn, I really don't like this female politician now, because now I don't think she got there on her own merit. I don't think her ideas are being valued for what they are. I think she's just there because she's a woman, and maybe she's just there because she's there on her own because she just thinks she's a woman, and that's really not a healthy situation for social relations among people.
Yeah.
So.
Well, now you are for government mandating that all Ghostbusters movies have to be with women, right?
Yeah, that's something that should happen. I mean, I'm waiting on Ghostbusters 3 already, and I heard they're going to have Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift in there, maybe even Kim Kardashian when Kanye runs for president. Nice. That's going to be awesome.
All right, so all this libertarianism talk, we got to talk Gary Johnson here for a second, because first off, I should say that Gary Johnson does not agree with us on what we said about the baker, because he believes the government should be allowed to do something. So this is a case where I think both of us are more libertarian. Maybe that's not surprising for you, but when I heard it, I was surprised to think, wow, I'm actually more libertarian in that sense than this guy. That being said, I basically like the guy, and I think he best represents the ideals that I hold rather than Trump or Clinton. What do you think of Gary Johnson?
Yeah, like you said, I also agree, not to brag, but I am more libertarian than Gary Johnson. It's a good thing to say, isn't it? I'm more libertarian than that statist over there. But Gary Johnson, he's a cool guy. I've heard him speak. I actually voted for him. He was actually the first politician that I voted for in 2012, and he may be the last politician I ever vote for now that I'm adopting a more extreme libertarian position where I don't really see the validity of government anymore. He might be the last, though Trump is persuading me a little bit with the memes, but he's fell off a lot. But Gary Johnson, he's a cool guy. I like what he's doing. I like that he's at least bringing people to the ideas of libertarianism. Like you said, he's not a perfect libertarian. I think he's a lot more left leaning, and I think his running mate Bill Weld is also a lot more left authoritarian leaning, even though he's a Republican, surprisingly. But I get this criticism a lot. People saying, Gary Johnson, I'm too pure. I just should let the guy do what he does. At least he's getting us, at least basically the whole argument of Gary Johnson right now centers on getting him to 15%.
Yeah.
Let's at least get him to 15%. Let's at least get him into debates, which I agree with, necessarily, well, kind of. I say this because I don't necessarily think that Gary Johnson is the best person, not even really close to the best person who I would want on the first national debate stage representing libertarianism, because of kind of his, and if he's watching, this isn't, hopefully you take this in stride, but he's kind of awkward, he's got these crazy eyes, Johnson, and he's not really principled in his delivery of libertarianism, not like Senpai Ron Paul.
We can get to Ron.
Yeah, and hopefully he does better going forward. But I do understand that. I do understand that people saying, even if he's not the best, let's at least support him, in getting 15%. At least support him in getting someone else on the debate stage besides the same old Hillary and Trump. And even, I would say, even though I don't personally believe that he's the best spokesperson in libertarianism, and I'm not really supporting him that much in this election just because of that, but that's not really something to say because I don't support any politicians. But if you are on the fence, if you're really fed up with crooked Hillary, if you're tired of Trump's BS baloney on how we're going to build the wall and deport all the illegals and make America great again and defeat evil China. If you're sick of all that crap and you're stuck with these two horrible options and you really just don't want, even if you're going to support Hillary or Trump just because they're the lesser of two evils in your opinion, at least right now in the polls, just on paper say you support Gary, or even just on paper say you support Jill Stein, just so we can have a diversity of ideas on this debate stage, because I think that's even more beneficial. Even if you're going to change your vote at the end and really in the end vote for Trump or Hillary, at least just have a conversation on national television to where at least people wake up to where they can kind of break through this mentality that these are the only two options they have, and these are the only two options they're ever going to have going forward.
T, I gotta stop you for a second because I want to be very clear. We're taping this, so I taped a video yesterday. That's a direct message that by the time our interview right now will be out, it'll have been out for a week or two, maybe 3. And you just laid out exactly what I said about Gary Johnson. I said he's not perfect. He's not the greatest debater. He's not the greatest libertarian. And Trump sucks for a lot of reasons. Hillary sucks for a lot of reasons. I can understand why you might vote for Hillary if you don't want the wheels to come off. I can understand why you might vote for Trump if you think social justice is out of control. But at least get the guy to 15% for one time so that we can just maybe have another voice in there. So I just want to be totally clear that you just said that, not hearing what I said, because I taped it yesterday, and I taped it yesterday, so I hadn't heard what you said. So great minds think alike, I think is my point there.
Exactly. Just to anybody out there, all your fans who are kind of on the fence, who are still hoping out for Bernie, join the Libertarian master race already. Come on. Dave's on the train. I'm on the train. Forget Trump train. It's on the Libertarian master race train.
So let's talk about Ron Paul a little bit. I'm trying to get Ron Paul on the show. So if you do a hell of a sell job here, maybe I can clip this and send it to his people. Would you say that he basically is the standard bearer for the role of government that you would want?
Absolutely. Ron Paul is probably pretty much the most philosophically consistent politician I've ever seen, and also the most libertarian politician I've ever seen. And he does a great job in articulating his ideas. He's very principled, and he's even gone more towards voluntarism now, especially now that he's out of politics. But, you know, who wouldn't? It takes 6 months, they say, after you're a libertarian to become full ANCAP.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
That's right. So how long are you on the train?
I'm still a classic liberal. I'm just in it with you guys, and I get some of the points. But this is why all the label stuff, you know, it's so funny. I know how much you hate labels too, and that's the whole point of attacking all this SJW nonsense. And yet at the same time, we feel you have to say, well, I'm an anarcho-capitalist to describe how that's different than a mainstream libertarian. We always get caught in all this nonsense when it's like, because it's hard to explain the big stuff all the time.
Exactly. And, you know, people always, you know, right now, ideologues and ideologies are really turning people off, especially ideological labels. I always tell people I adopt that label, anarcho-capitalist, libertarian, atheist, and things, just because I've examined these ideas, I've examined these philosophies, and they do consistently align with my core principles. That's why I adopt them. But you shouldn't feel forced to adopt an ideological label. Now, people who say they don't have ideologies, I posted this on Twitter the other day, people who say they don't have ideologies are just hipster fags trying to be trendy. Everyone has an ideology because it's really just a core set of ideas. If you don't have ideas, then, you know, 1, you shouldn't be voting, and 2, I don't know how you're alive. But everyone has an ideology, but, you know, you don't feel compelled to adopt a label. Just say it's your own self-ideology. You know, my ideology, I am anarcho-capitalist, I am libertarian, but in the end, it's Talib's ideology. It's that guy T's ideology, and that's just, it evolves. It doesn't have to be set in stone. I can change my mind. I can adopt different points of view as I see new evidence. And I think that's a lot of people are really appreciative of that now, rather than trying to maintain these strict ideological labels and concepts that they're constantly constrained to defend.
That's a lot of classical liberal stuff you're giving me.
Yeah, I mean, classical liberalism is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. You know, a lot of people who say they're classical liberals don't really adopt the economic side of classical liberalism, which I really don't. It sucks, but hopefully soon enough.
Yeah. So wait, I want to talk about the voting thing, because you've mentioned it a couple of times that you did vote once, Gary Johnson, that you might not vote again. So how, for someone that's listening to you right now that here just gets you 100% and wants Talib 2024 or something, for that person, or you won't even be 35 then. Yeah. 32, maybe 2032, something like that. But for that person that hears what you're saying, that says, I get this. Well, if you're saying you won't vote, how else do you expect the system to change?
People always ask, what do we do if we don't vote? Not voting is throwing away your vote. You're basically consenting to whatever happens. No, I'm actually not consenting to whatever happens because I'm not legitimizing the corrupt system that we have by saying I'm just going to settle with this one because it's going to happen anyway. I don't really have a choice, and that's really the nature of government. You don't really have a choice in the matter. I'm just saying I'm going to settle with it. Maybe next 4-year go around we'll have something better, but I'll suck it up and deal with this shit for a while. I don't really like that approach. And people always say, especially people who support Gary Johnson, getting him on the ticket on the base stage to just express the ideas, they know he's not going to win. They know he's not going to become the next president of the United States statistically. So really, they're really just legitimizing him because they want these ideas expressed. They see the value in the exchange of ideas in the marketplace and actually getting people to think about things rather than just getting someone elected. And I think more than voting, far more capable than voting that someone can do, rather than, trying to support a politician or trying to campaign for someone or trying to, Trump 2016 or, I'm with her or I guess I'm with her.
I'm with her.
The best thing that you can do as an individual is contribute your ideas, to contribute, what you have to offer to the market. People always are afraid of saying what they want to believe. They're afraid that, it might get them fired. It might, they might not be the best spokesperson. They think that this person might say it better. They don't feel confident in themselves. Look, think about if all of your viewers, not necessarily all of them, let's say 15% of your viewers, that's basically a few tens of thousands of people. If they just went out, made a YouTube channel, made a blog, made some sort of atmosphere to where they express their ideas, they got these ideas out there, and they actually contributed to changing the minds of other people. Because the thing is, I feel like, I'm more persuaded by having my ideas changed more so by other people who are just stating what they believe, rather than a politician, rather than Hillary or Bernie or Trump. I've heard these talking points over and over. I've heard these guys' ideas. What I haven't heard is the millions of people who support these clowns share their own individual pursuits, their own individual ideas of what they want to see change in society. And I think that's a much more effective process to getting change or to enacting change, because all change that comes, whether it be through the political process or through the market or through anything, it all comes from ideas. It all begins at someone had an idea and that idea was adopted by millions.
I love that, man, because you're not just talking shit. It's literally what you are doing with your life.
Yeah, I'm trying to lead by example. I always say I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. If I want to see a change in the market, if I want to see something new, some new innovation or something like that, I want to contribute to that. Not only by just supporting someone else who says they're going to do it, but actually getting my own voice out there. Because the thing is, I don't think my voice is any less valuable or your voice is any less valuable than Trump or Hillary's. In fact, I think it's more valuable because I can actually trust you more because you don't really have any self-gain. I mean, you're doing pretty good on Patreon. But you don't really have any selfish ambitions, like I'm going to corrupt these guys. Or I'm going to just shill out to them so I can get what I want. You're actually involved in this. You actually want people to actually just think about these things. You actually want to see a change in the world. Whereas these guys, they just want to seek power.
Yeah.
So if you can contribute your ideas to the market, I think that's far more beneficial than, supporting a candidate and just hoping for the best, every 4 years.
Yeah. So speaking of the idea part of this, as someone that's 22, so we have 18 years between us. So there's a generational thing there. I know I'm pretty hip and cool. I got it. But, but there is a generational thing there. When did this idea and the offense thing that we've touched on a little bit, and I know, and you've done all these videos on the social justice warriors and all this stuff. When do you think it crept into younger people? Because it does seem to be this outrage culture, younger people being freaked out by words and the safe spaces and the trigger warnings, all that stuff. Did you see it happen? Like when you were 16, did you feel that was happening then? Or has this just burst as big as it is just in this last, it feels like 2-3 years to me where it's just gone completely bananas?
Exactly. I mean, it's really dumbfounding. It's really confusing right now. Like, when did young people become such pussies? Like, when did it happen? Like, I thought we were supposed to be the edgelords. I thought we were supposed to be the guys who are rebelling against the system, who are trying to, just super independent. I'm going to be my own person. Now we're just coddling up to government. We're coddling up to, our university, professors or, our safe space members or, our Tumblr friends and whatnot. And to be honest, when it started, I don't really know, because I was really apolitical for most of my life, so I really didn't give two shits about most of this stuff that I'm talking about now.
Yeah. When did that happen for you?
I'd say probably around the 17 mark. It started off, unfortunately, with Alex Jones. I was a really hard SHTF shit hit the fan prepper guy. I knew the FEMA camps were about to come. I knew that all these people out here just didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. They were just dumbfounded by mainstream television and, not having proper water filters and the fluoride, just contaminating their minds. And to the extent, there's still a lot of fucking sheep out there, even if you don't like to use the word. Still a lot of people who just really don't think about things, and they just go with the flow, just go with the daily drove of their life without actually thinking critically about anything, especially these really serious issues that affect all of us. But I say probably around like 18, 19 years old, I came to the realization that, I just like thinking about stuff. I've always been creative, intellectually. I think I've always liked writing and, just making things. I've always been handsy and crafty. I've always just liked creating stuff. And when I found out that, hey, I don't really have to, just tear up shit in my mom's basement and just form some blob of nonsense and just say, oh, that's a cool contraption. I can actually create things in my head. I can actually create ideas. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I guess that just took off for me. It's really fun.
Yeah, so you must be the only YouTuber in history that their mom found out that they were happy to be a YouTuber, because you, instead of breaking shit and painting and whatever else you were doing down there, you were actually doing something productive.
Exactly. I didn't have the really the thing that my mom liked when I stopped doing YouTube, that I gave up. I slowed down on video games. Because when I was, I'll just share this quickly. When I was probably around, I don't know what age it was, maybe like 14, 13, I was really heavy on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Mm-hmm. And that really had a huge influence on my life for a short period of time. And I remember some days my mom would come in and say, come on, T, give the game a break, come do some reading, come, clean the dishes. I'm like, and I'm thinking like I'm CJ in this moment. I'm the game character. I'm just like, bitch, I just took over a hood. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't have time to do dishes. I'm trying to protect Grove Street. And it was reckless.
That's the difference between us. I grew up on Super Mario Brothers. My mom would come down. I'd want to bake her a pizza or do some plumbing or something. Okay. All right. So you're downstairs playing video games. I used to be a huge gamer myself. I've told people I even worked at Electronics Boutique. I was assistant manager. You may know it as GameStop, but I was a hardcore gamer for a long time. And video games never caused me to shoot anybody. Playing Super Mario Brothers, I did eat magic mushrooms because of that. But besides that, there was no violence. Played Grand Theft Auto. I never punched hookers, stole cars. You don't see a connection between those things, do you?
Not at all. I mean, I did all those same things. I ran over hookers, and I think I have a great relationship with hookers now. But, those are completely idiotic things. And, people are saying, the video games contribute to violence. Video games make people, kill others. It's the same nonsense as people saying guns make people kill others, or violent video games or violent movies or just portrays of violent imagery helps or contributes to violence. And also the nonsense that people on, the feminist agenda are pushing now, where they're saying things like, curvy bodies in video game characters, or, nice butts in, volleyball games are, contributing to misogyny or internalized sexism, all that BS,
Yeah, because, we never had violence or misogyny before video games and movies.
Exactly. It never existed. In fact, it's funny that they use that argument, because we're so less misogynistic and so less, violent in society now, that we have so much of a increase in all these violent, or misogynistic, if you want to call it, areas of media. But yeah, these things don't change people. The only thing that contributes to people doing bad things is the people themselves, their individual self-interest. If they just really want to do bad things, a video game isn't going to, make them do that. I can appreciate a good drive-by in Grand Theft Auto and not go out and kill my fellow black man. I can appreciate a curvy body or a nice, scene with a nice slap on the ass in a video game, and not go out and just, catcall women, or, just expect every woman to just walk around in a bikini and yoga pants, even though that probably would be a little nice.
Right, and actually I'm pretty sure they've done studies where you can actually prove the opposite, that people are able to get some of their aggression out by playing video games instead of punching people on the street or doing other shit that you probably shouldn't be doing. But let's shift over to two more things. So let's talk about Black Lives Matter a little bit. You've been pretty critical of the movement, and I think in line with everything else you're saying, it's sort of it's become a collectivist movement. So it's against a lot of your individualism ideals. My feeling on it is that it has morphed into something different now, where I had sympathy for the original intentions, I think, and maybe I was wrong about where my sympathies were, but I did, and now I see it as something much different. Can you just lay out what you think?
Exactly. I think everybody has been really let down by Black Lives Matter. I think they've really done a disservice not only to their movement, but also to the greater problems that the African American community face, and also to the greater combatants against police brutality, which is a major issue. I think everybody can sympathize with that. That hey, over, just reckless use of police force or violence, or in shootings, or, whether that be increased militarization for no apparent reason. And, I think everybody can agree that those are bad things, and everybody once did agree. But now Black Lives Matter has gone from actually confronting cases of police brutality or police misconduct to just saying, whenever a cop shoots a black person, we're going to riot. Come on. I mean, sometimes I know this may freak out some super far left people, but there are black people out there who are assholes. There are black people out there who are criminals. There are black people out there who kill other people. People always say, when I criticize black on black crime, they always say, look at that. Why are you mentioning that? That's not a legitimate thing. The demographic most likely to kill me as a young black man is other young black men, and especially living in a highly populated urban city, with a highly really dense black population. And I think if you tell a white liberal that, is on the front line saying, that black on black crime is illegitimate, it's not worth talking about. If I tell them that, hey, the person most likely to end my life, which you say Black Lives Matter, is other young black men. So excuse me for wanting to address these types of areas and trying to find solutions to these problems.
Isn't that the best example of the collectivism versus the individualism thing? They're trying to look at this group and they're saying this group is oppressed, so we must help them. And by doing that, these liberal elites or regressives, whatever you want to call them, they actually throw the individual, you in this case, someone that lives in Atlanta, they actually throw you under the bus.
Exactly. It's like, do you really care about black lives? Do you really care about helping black people or advancing the social status or economic status or just, relatively safety status of black lives? Or are you just doing this for virtue signaling? Are you just doing this because you want to feel good, because you want to feel like you're helping? I'm helping. Look, I marched a parade, and if they said all white people go to the back of the line to the Black Lives Matter conference, I'm helping. I'm going to the back of the line.
Right.
You're not doing shit. You look ridiculous. You look like you suffer from white guilt, and you're not actually helping solve the actual problems that black people face. Which police brutality is a problem, but it pales in comparison to the many other problems that black people face, including the war on drugs, including poor economic status, whether that be the raising of the minimum wage, the increased unemployment of young black men, including the area of fatherless homes, all these other things, blood, not blood, what's the thing? Heart disease. Let's get white people to stop eating KFC every fucking, every other meal, let's, or this is it, which, damn, I might go get some of that because I just made myself hungry.
No, that sounds good. I haven't had lunch yet. All right. KFC it is. There's actually one on the way home for me. All right. So final thought. I saw on the videos that you do normally, this isn't your normal background. You're in a different room, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in your normal room, you got a bunch of posters behind you. You got a lot of cool stuff. Hopefully people will check it out. You have something for Bitcoin there. Now, Bitcoin has been like a running joke with me for like a year because I just simply, it's like when my mom asked me the cloud and I try to explain it to her, I feel like people try to explain Bitcoin to me and I never know what the hell they're explaining. So finally, this weekend, I signed up, I got a wallet, Bitcoin wallet because somebody said, I want to send you, half a Bitcoin. Did it, got it. I saw some money in my account. And then literally the next day, or I think maybe it was a few hours later, someone said, I want to send you a full Bitcoin. That's about $500 or something. So I have this stuff right now. I think I have 1.5 or 1.75 Bitcoins. I don't know what the hell it is. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the wallet is. Explain this to me and to the rest of America.
Yeah, and granted, I'm not a Bitcoin connoisseur either. I'm not an expert in the field, but if you're getting that much Bitcoin from your audience, hey, tell them to come to my channel and check out my content. They like me too. I could take a Bitcoin here.
The link is right down below.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Bitcoin is a really good innovation because one, it's getting us away from the centrally managed currency system of the Federal Reserve, which is Federal Reserve notes, is getting us away. It's giving us basically an alternative in the market in the means of exchange via currency. Not only, because you really can't buy anything with gold. You really can't buy anything with just barter, miscellaneous tools and stuff, or silver. Bitcoin gives us an option to be able to transact and be able to engage transactions free from this other entity, this other medium that has been riddled with corruption, has lost I think 90-something% of its value since its inception. With inflation and printing and the national debt decreasing the value of the dollar. Bitcoin frees itself from all of that. And the good thing about Bitcoin is it's really primed for the digital expansion, the expansion of the internet, the online sphere of the world. And it's really good in, facilitating transactions and actually maintaining wealth, across borders, across barriers, because Bitcoin is relatively available in every country, whether that be from America to Switzerland to Canada to Zimbabwe. It gives people a means to where they can actually, leave their government established currency, whether it be doing well right now, whether it be failing, or whether it be, subject to corruption, and actually gives them an opportunity to, go to a currency that is, that we all engage in, that everyone is a part of, and that's also free from this external corruption. Of course, we have hacks here and there and stuff, but it's a really cool concept, and I see so many different applications for it going forward. But right now, I just use it to buy gift cards.
I was going to ask you, what am I supposed to do? Because I did a little Googling. Look, I got to buy some gift cards, some electronic equipment. I mean, you can do stuff with it. So basically, you're telling me, don't cash out just yet. Hang on to it, and let's see what happens.
Not yet. I mean, we've seen Bitcoins at right now. I think it's at I think $260, something like that, $280, $90. I mean, we've seen Bitcoins at highs of $1,000, $1,200. So definitely don't cash out. I mean, I do it just because I be hurting for cash, and I see something I need on eBay, and I'm just like, I'll use my Bitcoin instead of my credit card.
Right.
But if you're in it for the long haul, and you have enough in your personal savings, and you have enough to invest and make it an investment, definitely don't cash out right now. Definitely maintain it for the long haul, and make sure it's secure. Make sure you have it in a secure location, because I know a lot of areas have been getting hacked lately and having the Bitcoin stolen. So just keep up with that. And yeah, in the future, you might start off with $400, $500 in Bitcoin. 2 years from now, it might be worth 10,000. So it's good to maintain. It's a good thing to hold up. It's a good medium if you don't want to invest in gold, to just have for a hit the fan scenario. If anything happens, if the economy collapses and we're all in martial law and stuff, and you just want to get some groceries and you can't do something with your $100 bill, which is now worth $2. Bitcoin is a good alternative to have.
Yeah. You like how you became my financial advisor by the end of this thing?
Yeah, I think it's cool. People always say, watch my videos, they say, oh, this guy is so articulate, he's so brilliant, I think they do say that because I'm black, oh, this articulate black guy.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it nonetheless. But hey, if anyone wants to hire me as a financial advisor, I can't guarantee, proper gains, but I'm up for it.
I like that. You even gave your disclaimer right up front. Dude, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm a big fan of what you do, and the link to your channel is right down below, but it's youtube.com/thatguyt. And I hope next time we get to do this, we'll have some KFC in person. How about that?
Awesome. You're going to get called a racist for saying that. You know that, right? You realize the conversation we're having right now. You just told a black guy, we're going to have KFC for you.
All right, wait, how can I fix that now? How do we get out of this properly?
There's no going back, man. Just accept it, embrace it, and hopefully we'll just get rid of the craziness to where people don't get offended by the bullshit.